The Papatoetoe Rugby Club in South Auckland plays host to the breakdown tonight, and if you want VIPs, we have you covered. Sir Graeme Henry, Ian Foster, Ruby Tui and Keven Miyalamu all ahead on the breakdown, plus the greatest 15 so far as voted by you.
Kia ora ana koutou katoa toa. Hello and welcome to the breakdown. Yes, Cook Island Language Week here in New Zealand. I tell you what, we have waited 5 years. The players have waited 5 years. We have 2 more Olympic medals. Can't wait to talk about it. Great to be here at the Papatoetoe Rugby Club. 75th Jubilee this year. They've had plenty of celebrations. They've enjoyed their season. I'm looking forward to talking what has been a fantastic weekend for rugby. You talk about it. No, we're not talking about South Africa. We're talking about our Black Fern Sevens, our All Black Sevens. Hannah, let's run it through for you. Let's start at the semi-final. Given the fact that Fiji took us right to the edge, where were you? How were you handling it, knowing there was a gold medal going to be on the line later on?
Yeah, awesome for the girls to be able to come home after 5 years with a gold medal, and the boys the same, coming home with a medal.
Oh, absolutely. And when you look at what COVID's thrown them, and the intensity they've had to live to get to that level, and even you see in the other teams the way they came in. Great Britain sort of gave them a bit of a scare. Fiji right there in the semi-final. I didn't even know what was going on in terms of the flipping the coin and who had to score what. But in the end, to kick off and receive and to do what they've done, outstanding. And
they go on to win a gold medal for the men's team. Hannah, look, the disappointment of not getting a medal the last time they were at the Olympics. If we were going to lose to someone, not so bad to lose to a Fiji team that were impressive through the whole course of that tournament.
Yeah, they were impressive athletes, weren't they? I think we were the better sevens team out there, but Fiji had some big, strong athletes that won the big moments in that game.
So very proud of both of those sides, though. They both did us proud. They're both back here in New Zealand. And Ruby Tui, you are an Olympic champion. You have an Olympic gold medal. Are you ever going to get sick of the sound of that?
Oh, you tell me, Jeff.
Oh, you were waiting for that. You were waiting for that. Run me through this. What did you do with it on the flight home? Was it on carry-on? Were you prepared? Did you have to put it through security? Or did you get it out straight away and say, yeah, just hold on to that for a second? I mean, this whole process, this journey you've been through, the 5 years it's taken, I mean, has it been a roller coaster ride, even the last month?
Yeah, well, firstly, carry on, always. I had it around my neck half the time. I got a little bit of a crook, trapezium, I think. But I learnt last time with the silver, if you just let it go, it gets heaps of chips in it. So I'm trying to be careful with this golden one. It's just pretty nice. The journey's been massive. Only came on here tonight because I wanted to hear Hannah Porter's feedback on my game because it was pretty terrible. Been through a lot, and I like how you guys pointed out, we had no preparation. Like usually we were supposed to play all these teams 8 times before we got to the Olympics. So it was kind of like, last one wins, let's all go for it, see what happens. And Fiji were unreal. We've never played that team, such a fit, fast team. 3/4 of them had never left Fiji before. They've been in a 4-month-long camp. Our one was only 2 months, so pretty crazy stuff going on. We had lots of things in the team, ups, downs. Alan Bunting, we don't know if he's coming back yet, so very emotional for him being with us for the last 10 years. Just, so many emotions and so much going on, but just so happy we could get that job done, man. We always put the pressure on ourselves during trainings. We'd actually played this exact scenario out a couple of times. So we think of pressure as an absolute privilege, and we have to walk towards things like that. So I just remember I was looking Gossi and I was like, now we work, it's nothing new. We know this pressure, we know what to do, and we know we can handle it. So been through those situations, and thank goodness, because Fiji were on fire.
Rubes, congratulations. You touched on Alan Bunting before and what he's brought in. Obviously, coaches are really, really inspirational. He's obviously one of them too. But can you give us an insight in some of the things that he's created, particularly around your culture?
Oh, yeah, look, that guy's been huge. Personally, after Rio, I wasn't very happy, to be honest. I knew we hadn't done what we could have done, and I was kind of ready to maybe move to 15s or have another look at something else. And it was actually that guy who sat all the leaders down and said, if you stay with me and I apply for this head coach job, I promise I'll put the players first. I promise I'll put culture first, and I'll take you all with me. And he kept his promise, and he actually did that till the very end. So huge for a coach to to really walk that talk, because it's scary for a coach, you know, to just go, here, players, I trust you, you guys go. But he did it time and time again. You guys know at halftime he lets us do it, and we don't always get it right. Like we're still learning his leadership. So he really trusts us, and he really brought out the potential in a lot of players, but also people. So I owe so much to that man, and a lot of us do. So huge shout out to Alan Bunting and his wife Alexis and their kids. Thank you so much.
So you got to give us an insight about the Olympic Village, particularly around the food. I heard your Samoan, well done, malo lava sunga. So please tell me there was some taro there.
Whawhetai lava. Yeah, the mea I was sicky. I could not find any kalo though, man. I was gutted. There was deep fried banana though. That was all right. Two levels of it this time. Rio, it wasn't like that. Hand sanitizer, gloves before you went in. You know, New Zealand was quite good. We tried to stay away from everybody. Massive fridges of every drink you can imagine. You can just help yourself. All the different foods, and being in Japan, you know, the dumplings, the ramen was just so good. But I think, yeah, just that last night we just went straight to the Italian, the pizza and the deep fried section. It was, if you can imagine, every country they've got to cater to, so every food type, it was there, but it wasn't until the last night that I really tried them all.
Maybe a little bit different in MIQ for the next couple of weeks, I'm afraid, Ruby. But I tell you what, time to rest and recover on behalf of all of us here and at the Papatoetoe Rugby Club as well. Well done. Congratulations. I tell you what, something special. You deserve a rest. You get a little bit of it. Hopefully you get to celebrate a little bit more when you come out of MIQ, and I'm sure the country will celebrate with you. Thanks so much for joining us, Ruby.
Thank you so much, team. Appreciate you, Big. Thank you,
Awesome.
thank you.
Awesome. All right, so much news coming from around the world, but Bern, you're going to stay close to home to start us off.
Yes, indeed, Jeff. I'd love to update you on the Bledisloes, but there isn't an update. We can't give you one. We do know, though, that the first test against the Wallabies and All Blacks will take place in Auckland this weekend. And there's a +1 in the All Black camp. It is welcome back, haere mai, to Ethan de Groot, called back into the AB squad as injury cover for Ofatuanga Fasi. No doubt they're already burning couches in Dunedin. Of course, the Wallabies arrived in New Zealand on Friday, and while there's a real mix of youth and experience, they've had a rough up, haven't they? They've had a test series win against the French, so they say this time around things are feeling a little bit different. How different? We will soon find out. There is going to be a decider in South Africa. The Springboks with a 27-9 win over the touring Lions. It was a bruising encounter, packed with drama, packed with plenty of other things too. Yellow cards, fisticuffs, and moves Mike Tyson would like to claim he's biting. So fights and bites. Lions prop Kyle Sinclair, he's been cited for an alleged chomp in the 64th minute. Good luck finding vision of that from the bottom of the ruck. Regardless, he has been cited, and the Englishman is facing a minimum 12-week ban if found guilty. Now this on the back of his teammate Stuart Hogg denying accusations he got the molars into Willie LaRue. The Scotsman's responded on social media. He's said, "I would never bite an opponent, and I'm annoyed and upset by this unsubstantiated accusation. I've always been proud of playing rugby in the spirit of the game." So unlike Sinclair, Hogg has not been cited. Rassie Erasmus, he's going to be loving this, isn't he? In fact, we might get version 2, another edition of the video release that went on Twitter last week. He had an absolute field day. It was pure theatre. He attacked the refs on social media. It lasted almost as long as the 64-minute first half. Unfortunately, the uncensored bleating resulted in the refs double-checking and referring up on so many occasions. The game took, barring half-time, 116 minutes. So Rassie's rant has been widespread, and even Warren Gatland has made comment. What did Gat say? Well, I hope it doesn't get to a situation where we're ending up with things on Twitter, a bit like Gat's, and people airing their views in that way and not going through the proper channels. Our brothers across the ditch, they've stated that Rugby Australia believes the recent actions are unacceptable and against the spirit and values of the game. World Rugby's announced it will raise the Erasmus vision with Rugby South Africa. Do you need to go through that channel? How about just finding him? Anyway, finally, Warriors fans may be weeping. Auckland fans will be weeping with joy. Roger Tuivasa-Sheck is going to take part in training this week for Auckland. Can't wait to hear what Fozzie has to say about that one.
I think the locals are thinking maybe Papatoetoe is his club. That's where he wants to come. Yeah, now we know. Plenty of support here. Still chasing that gold blast shield. Anyway, let's talk about the fact, Fozzie. Welcome to the show. Great to have you with us. Roger Tuivasa Sheik. Let's start with a really difficult one. How do you monitor his progress? And how do you, I suppose, get that feeling that he's getting what he needs to know about the game of rugby union again?
Oh, look, he's in good hands up here, you know, with the Blues and with Miyalama with Auckland. Had a few conversations with him myself. He's very committed, very motivated, and I would actually add a big acknowledgement to what the Warriors have done. You know, they've put him first. They've given him a chance to come back and chase what he wants to chase. So I think that's a pretty gutsy call by them.
Fozzie, Australia are obviously coming off the back of 3 tough test matches against France. What do you expect to see of them when they turn up?
Pretty battle-hardened. You know, all 3 tests they played against France was almost a copy and paste, wasn't there, in terms of they all went down to the last 3 or 4 minutes. And you learn a lot about yourself when you go through those nail-biting games. So, you know, it was a good series for them to win, and I'm sure that they'll be really pleased with that. So, you know, they'll be in a good space. I think if you look at last year, both teams were coming in pretty cold in terms of preparation, whereas now I think we're both no excuses. I think we've both got what we've needed and can't wait.
Fozzie, I mean, we've seen it before with the discipline. That's going to be a massive sort of factor in this test match. So I want to sort of touch on particularly the tackle, you know, given it's, you know, had a bit of, you know, I suppose, publicity over the last few weeks. Is it something, you know, that you guys have had to focus on? And has World Rugby or SANZA come out and said, look, these are the guidelines, this is what you have to do? Because there's been some real inconsistencies in terms of, you know, what players have been given, red cards and yellow cards type scenarios? Yeah,
I think, Mills, there's been no change. I think there's a move in the game. It started a few years ago. We saw it at the World Cup where there is a big move away from the height of tackles and trying to get them lower and get them anything marginal is probably judged as being more on the side of being higher than not high. And you get those lines that are pretty tough. We went through the same thing last year with Offa in the test match that we felt was a bit of chest on chest. So it's but you got to ride with those. And you know, at the end of the day, the game is doing the right thing by trying to lower the tackle height. It's we've got to put player welfare at stake because, you know, we're developing bigger, stronger, faster athletes, and the contacts are huge. So, you know, so whilst some things don't go your way, it does put a lot of pressure on us as coaches and players to get techniques right. And in some ways, it's nice to have a technical solution to it.
You talk about pressure, though. What we do know is that you're playing a Bledisloe Cup this weekend. What we don't know is where you're playing the next one and when the next one after that's going to be and what's going to follow in the Rugby Championship. Is there an element of frustration, the fact that you can only really prepare for what you know this week? And would you like some security and knowledge about where you're going to be heading in the short term?
I'll answer the last question first. Yes, I would. It's the life of a coach at the moment, but I think you know, there's obviously it's complicated for some reasons behind the scene, but you know, we fully expect to be playing here next week. You know, that's our plan. And then we fully expect after a few days off to be jumping on a plane and we're committed to the Rugby Championship in whatever form it might be. So it's not the way we wanted it to be, the Rugby Championship. But, you know, it is what it is in this current times. But is it difficult? Yes, it is. But ultimately, it's the same for both teams. And doesn't change the fact on the 7th of August, the whistle's going to go and we get into it.
And there's a Bledisloe Cup on the line. And that, for you guys, is the trophy every year. And we've talked about it. Have you noticed when you've come into camp that passion well and truly, the moment they step onto that field, get on the plane, they come into camp, the Bledisloe Cup, is there a different intensity about it?
Oh, look, it's special for us. You know, I think we've said before that, you know, for us as Kiwis, for an All Black team, and I think for our nation, if you put the Webb Ellis at the top of the tree, obviously, and that's not in the cabinet, that's disappointing. The Bledisloe is kind of the next most important trophy for us. So, you know, it brings out the best of them, and it's got to bring the best out of us. And so, you know, we can't wait. It's something that we look forward to every year, and I think the fact we're playing at Eden Park, forget about all the cloud about after that, we've got a game this week to look forward to.
Fozzie, I for one am rapt that you're here for this. Each time on the show we debate the first 5.
Oh, not that one again.
Yeah, absolutely.
So much so that we've pulled some stats on the first 5. And as you can see, they're pretty hard to pull apart. Kind of 9 points per game, tries per game. Similar, defenders beaten, both of them easily beating defences, goal kicking on par, try assists per game, really similar. I just wanted to get your feedback on how you, I suppose, pull them apart. What makes a difference for the first fives when you're choosing a team?
Yeah, good question. Based on those stats, I might pick both of them. It's, look, I think it's, you know, clearly we've got two guys we've got an incredible amount of faith in, and so right now it's, you know, I don't think there's one thing that's better or worse for either of them really. It's, so we're just gauging training. We're training the physical side, the mental side. Obviously, they both had very different build-ups this year and how they've gone about it. You know, I think clearly we will be utilising both of them throughout this campaign, both in starting roles and off the bench. So I'm quite happy to do that because I've got a lot of faith in either of them. The key thing, right, is the world sees selection as ultimate judgment, don't they? And it's and ultimately in some ways it is, but in other ways we're just trying to drive the performance of both of them up and up and up. And like I said, inside the camp, really delighted with how they've both taken on the challenge.
Fozzie, I mean, this is obviously the biggest headache selection, but you've got some others as well. You know, have you been happy with the way your midfield combination have gone? Particularly, you know, a couple of them have been a little bit inexperienced in the last 3 weeks. Yeah,
actually, I've been really pleased with it. I think, you know, I think we highlighted before the Steinlager series that there was some real opportunity there, and you know, we've seen you know, we've seen Rico's continual growth, and again, I thought he was a big tick where he went in the Steinlager series, and part of that was on the wing as well. So we're delighted he's keeping both those barrels loaded because it's important to us. Anton, well, you know, he only played in that third test with an injury, so he's still coming back. David Avila, you know, after a long period out of the black jersey, you know, I thought really showed a lot of composure and a lot of growth. So, and then you put the debutant Quinton, and I thought he was sensational his first test, you know. And so we're pleased with the depth we're starting to go. Clearly we will narrow that down, and you'll see very soon, I guess, where we're thinking. And but it won't probably be the only combination we use this year.
Just lastly for me, Fozzie, look, I know you would have been keeping an eye on what's happening in South Africa in terms of that contest between the British and Irish Lions and South Africa, and it's been very clear that this has been about defence and about kicking, and the fact that we know that at the highest stage when we've come up against teams that defence have been really, really strong, that put us under pressure. You look at those games and the way that game's being played right now, is that the biggest challenge for the All Blacks, is still breaking down the strong defences that have developed over the last couple of years?
Yeah, look, it definitely is. I mean, that's the way the game's going. It's very defensive, and I think, you know, we obviously we get criticised if we don't sort of break open a rush defence all the time. But I think what you've seen in South Africa is when two teams do it against each other, the risk-reward side, if you don't want to take any risks, then you kick. And so that's what we're seeing over there. We're seeing two teams where I guess the reward of a Lions series victory is so big, is that the risk factors sort of, they're trying to minimise it right down to the bottom, and it's all about a pressure game. And so at the moment it's an arm wrestle. So, you know, you've got to take credence. It's a tough series, and we'll see what happens. But for us, our challenge is that's not a style that we like playing a lot of. We've got to get better at dealing with it, but I've also got to get better at maybe having a little bit more patience and playing it and making people guess a little bit more when they want to defend us like that.
Look, it's a test week. We're grateful you've been able to come in here and chat to us. We know it's a challenge, as always, the Bledisloe Cup, but I know everyone here and everyone around the country as well and truly behind you. Thanks for coming and joining us here on the Breakdown on a test week.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Before you go, though, before the break, we've got a trivia question and we need all the help we can get on the show. So, Bern, test us. We'll get an answer from Fozzie and see whether or not he's right.
You are cruel, Jeff. Yes,
Why?
it's trivia time, but Fozzie, we like to call this also Jeff's best guess, because that's what it is most weeks. JK has retired injured, so there's no backup there for you, Jeff, this week. And staying with the Sevens theme, we thought we'd keep it around the shorter version of the game. And the question is, where was Rugby Sevens first played? So ponder that. But Sir Graeme Henry, we've got some guesses from the audience, and guess
Mills
the
has got
operative
it.
word.
Got it. Mills has got it.
Too easy, man.
Too easy.
Ponder
Mills has got
that.
it.
So after the break, Sir Graeme Henry joins us with his greatest 15 selection. See if you agree. But first, let's soak up the power and the prowess of our winning wahine. Welcome back to the breakdown, live from the Papatoetoe Rugby Club in South Auckland. We're on the road and we absolutely love it. My favourite part of the show, trivia, where we get head scratching from the panel. The question, staying with the sevens theme on our seven success from our wahine, where was rugby sevens first played? Now, some of the audience think they know, but I've been watching and there's been a few random cell phones come out, so we're not going to consult the crowd. We're going to go straight to the panel. Jeff, what do you got?
It's not, my cell phone's not random, but I didn't even look this up. I just think it started in Hong Kong because that's where the party started. I know that's not right, but that's where I wish it started.
You know what they
Was
say
it
about
party?
sevens in Hong Kong when you get
don't watch
bored,
the
turn
sevens?
around and watch the rugby?
Yeah.
Hannah.
I'm going to go with a guess, just because they've got an amazing sevens tournament over there. Scotland, Melrose.
Oh, do we need to go to Mel's?
That's not a guess. It's Melrose Cup. It was named after that. It's in Melrose.
Very good. So we're going to end it right there because you're right, Scotland, the Melrose Cup. But do you know why? There's a great story. It was named after the town of Melrose, the birthplace of rugby, in 1883, where a local butcher boy wanted to raise some money for his floundering club. So even back then, clubs were feeling the pain financially. Not a lot's changed, has it?
It has, I'll tell you what has changed, and it was great. So Graeme Henry actually knew that as well, didn't you? You knew that, absolutely.
Well, I've got the tip as I was walking up here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I think that's a fair guess.
It's a fair guess?
Yeah, well, they've been around for a long time, you know. That's where we come from, you know.
A lot of players have been around for a long time, and I tell you what, we did spark a debate last week, and you started it a long time ago, and this greatest All Black 15, we kicked it off last week on Monday night. We're going to hear your role in this a little bit later, but let's go back and talk to the lead panellist in Grant Nisbet as he talks once again about the front row.
Welcome back to where we try to pick the greatest All Black 15 here on The Breakdown. Last week, the expert panel of myself, Ken Laban, Ricky Swinnell and Phil Gifford looked at the front row. We picked Steve McDowell at loose head, Sean Fitzpatrick at hooker and Ken Gray as our tight head prop. We asked you to vote and you went with Tony Woodcock, Keven Miyalamu and Owen Frank. So two completely different front rows there. So to break the impasse, we've asked Sir Graeme Henry to step in as convener of selectors with Ted's team.
And you volunteered very quickly for this job, I hear. You volunteered very quickly, and this is not an easy job. The public vote versus the history of the game, tough job, but you were happy to oblige?
I got my arm twisted. It took them about a month to convince me to
Oh, stop it.
be controversial. Look, I think this is a very difficult job to pick a team after 120 years. I'm older than you guys, so I know more. That's obvious. The only guy who knows about the same as Nisbo, who's probably about 5 years younger than me, so I know more than he does. Ken Gray, obviously, tight head prop.
Well, let's start the other side.
okay.
You start at one, don't you? You named him many teams. Let's start at one. Let's start at loose head prop.
Well, you're in charge of this show.
Well, the way you were running, you kept going and you were starting. You thought you were in charge. Apparently, it's my show.
Okay,
Come on now.
Okay, fine. All
right.
I'll play the game.
You'll play the game. All right. Well, let's start at one. Who's your loose head prop?
Tony Woodcock.
And why?
Well, he played in 2 Rugby World Cup winning teams. He's played 111 games for the All Blacks. He was a vital part of those teams. He's played more games of rugby than any other front rower in the history of this country. And he was superb. So it was a hell of a difficult job. But he's the most experienced, played the most number of tests. And I think he deserved to get the job because of that.
Well, let's move to hooker then, and controversial in some ways because Keven Miyalama is right over there, but he's right here. He's joining us a little bit later on, but you've had to make a difficult choice. We've had some fantastic hookers. Which way did you go?
Well, Kevy did come into consideration. I had sleepless nights about this, but I had to go with Sean Fitzpatrick.
He wasn't bad. He wasn't bad. Come on now.
Kevy played 129 games for the All Blacks, I think. That's a guess, but I think it's around that. Sean played 92, and Sean was captain for a long, long time. And he put this, he, I think, was the strong man in the front row in world rugby for almost a decade. And I think if you asked the world to pick the best hooker in the world, they'd pick Fitzpatrick.
And so if you think tight head prop, and you've already announced that because you jumped the gun, but Ken Gray, you're going back a while here, you talk about your experience, but what separated him from the great tight heads we've had?
Well, he played in the 60s, and I talked to Colin Meads, Brian Lahore, John Graham, Wilson Winneray, reasonably knowledgeable men, and they thought this man was the strong man of the pack, and he led them. He was only 6'3", reasonably tall for a prop, but only 97 kilos. You know, we're going back a few years. I saw him play. No, he was a phenomenal player in those days, and it's just difficult to compare the different decades and the different teams, but they thought he was a key member of that team, the cornerstone, tight head prop, Ken Gray.
So let's have a look now at those 3 players, those wonderful and great All Black front rowers.
To play 100 tests for the All Blacks is not an easy thing to do. And to play it in the front row, again, makes it even harder. So he again has earned the right to be called a great All Black.
Props are a person that's willing to do their job, and it's quite a selfless job. You know, it's not someone that will get that recognition for scoring tries. Usually the guys that are willing to set a good platform for a team.
Woody kept things pretty simple, but just did his role. As I say, consistently well. You know, you knew when he was in there as a scrum, you weren't going to go backwards. He was always ready to go. He didn't really have an off day, which is always great. He was smart in terms of understanding how he could contribute to the team to get it spot on. Like he was never caught short, not knowing where he needed to be, what he needed to do to fit in with the team. He was a real a rock in the team that you really, as I say, it comes down to the people you really trust and rely on when the big moments come, and he was certainly one that delivered on those moments.
But not only was he a power scrummager, he was a good ball player too. And during that time it allowed us to have more attacking threats on the park because we had a guy who shouldn't be able to catch and pass and run with the ball in our attacking system. And for a long time that was one of our big advantages, having props that could do that.
Here's Woodcock. We've seen it before in the World Cup final.
He just was a farm boy in a really famous team, and he just acted like he didn't change who he was. He was a 100-test All Black, like he's a legend. He's regarded as one of the best props ever. I love the way he was so chilled, very humble, very loving and giving, and then get him on a scrum, he'd just destroy whoever was in front of him.
An arrogant, pimply-faced carpenter's apprentice is how I would probably express my view on Fitzy.
Well, Fitzy was part of an Auckland group that I think, misunderstood their role in New Zealand rugby and thought they were perhaps a bit more important than they really were.
You know, a close friend today. He was quite, different in those days. He was very confident. He was playing in a varsity team that was pretty laden with experience, and he needed to learn the ropes, and he did. You know, he had issues. He couldn't throw the ball in when he first came into rugby. He had a tendency to give away a lot of penalties for over-vigorous play. I've got to say he became the greatest line-out thrower probably in the game, ultimately through a lot of coaching and people sorting him out and helping him. But he went through some hard times to get there. I don't think we ever quite got on top of the over-vigorous play, but fantastic All Black, fantastic player, fantastic person.
I think often when you talk about greats, they do change the game, and I think Fitzy changed the game.
But Fitzy was a bit special. I always used to say he's got a backbone of stainless steel. He was unbendable. Yes, he's one of the great All Blacks that would have done well in any era of rugby. He would have been simply outstanding. And add to that, he was a great leader of men.
Just a silent assassin as well, you know. First guy to actually start trying to manipulate refs, with a smile on his face.
Well, see, I think Ken Gray's probably the greatest prop that's played the game, because I think he had a mobility, he had a skill set, he could catch the ball, he was a fantastic line-out player. He was a very good scrummager and he was very mobile. The difficulty with comparing players from era to era is that the games are very different and the skill sets are very different, but there are some players who transcend the game. Ken Gray to me would be a modern day prop. Mobility, skill, absolute commitment and focus. A wonderful, wonderful player.
I was really fortunate to coach Tony Woodcock. Mills, you played a lot of games with the man. I mean, I marvelled with his ability defensively. He looked as though he could fill any spot in the field, made good decisions. What made him special as a player for you?
Oh, he was an intelligent man. He didn't say much, but he did his role exceptionally well. And I came through the grades with him. Secondary schools, under-19s, right through until the All Black stuff and what he did in terms of his core role and skills. And I think John Hart touched on it before. It's hard to actually, to pick a team because eras are so different. The scrums became a little bit different, the physique of it. But I suppose for me, Ted, when you're looking at stuff like this, and Kevy's obviously in the room, you spoke about leadership and things. When you break it down, what are the priorities you look for? Is it leadership, on the field, off the field, or is it, getting out there and making sure that they do their job first and foremost?
I think Richie McCaw handled it, said it. He just did his job, you could always rely on him. You're confident he would do the business for you. And that's what Tony did. 111 test matches. Everybody could rely on him.
And that's what's going to get challenging, Hannah, when you start going through. There's going to be so many other positions. Is there a position for you start thinking to yourself, you know what, how are you going to separate some of these players?
Sitting on this panel, I'm not looking forward to the outside back chat.
Well, JK's not even here.
Yeah.
Wait till he starts voting for himself.
Yeah, correct.
And gets his way. But that's one of the challenges, isn't it? Is being able to separate through the eras.
Yeah, that's...
You look at the fullbacks, you got Napier, Scott, who I didn't see play, Don Clark, who I did see play, Mills, who I saw a bit of.
I made your lawns a lot, mate. That's how I got selected, didn't I?
And Kristen Cullen will help. You've got some absolute legends in the game. Like Napier played, I think, every game in the Invincibles tour in 1924, if I can remember rightly. I remember listening to the radio about that.
The wireless. So you think about all of those players. I mean, for you, Ted, has there been, are you looking forward to later on when we get back on the show, and there's going to be a couple of positions, you haven't committed to that yet, but you're going to come back on, because, isn't that the great thing, that we're telling the stories of the past now? Well, sometimes that can be forgotten.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's part of the All Blacks team first understanding. The players know who have played there before, and they know it's their job to fill that jersey up more each time. It gets moved on. So when Millsy played fullback, he was taking Christian Cullen's place, and he knew that he'd been a great player, and he wanted to emulate that. And Christian would have talked about Don Clark, different players, of course. But, you know, he was a fantastic footballer and so on and so forth.
And I remember it myself because I was, you know, I was following on from Sir John Kirwan, and I knew that the expectations in the jersey, but all of the All Blacks talk about that. And so the front row is maybe not decided, but certainly debated. It's time now to move to the middle row. Let's go back to Nisbo and the team and look at some of the best locks to go around in the All Black jersey.
This week on New Zealand's Greatest 15, we're picking the locks. I'm Grant Nisbet, and I'm joined by veteran rugby journalist Phil Gifford, Sky Sport commentators Ricky Swinell and Ken Laban. OK, our short list for tight head lock is Andy Hayden, Brodie Retallick, Robin Brooke and Brad Thornton. Quite some lineup. Phil?
This may be slightly controversial, but I'm going to pick Andy Hayden. I think that Andy Hayden was possibly the most street-smart All Black there's ever been. Andy would find a way to get the better of his opponent, and it's something he had in common, I think, even though they were very different people, with Colin Meads. And so for me, my pick is Andy Hayden.
Fair enough.
For me, it's Brodie Retallick. Work rate, skill set, core jobs.
My vote's going to go for Brodie. I just think he's the most dominant lock every time he's taken the field against any opponent during his life. So my vote's Brodie.
If you were able to somehow in their prime have Andy Hayden marking Brodie Retallick in a line-out, I would pay huge money to see that.
What a contest.
Because Andy Hayden, I think, would find some way to put Retallick off his stride, whether it was verbally, whether it was physically, whether it was timing, whatever it was. I just think Andy Hayden had one of the most astute rugby minds that we've ever seen in this country. Having said all of that, Brodie Retallick, as I said, he's an all-time great, no question, and I'd be very comfortable with him getting the public vote as well.
So we're agreed. Our contender for greatest All Black at tight head lock is Brodie Retallick.
Off goes Conrad Smith, pops it up, Brodie Retallick gets his first test try under the posts.
OK, guys, now let's have a look at loose head lock. And the four we've listed are Colin Meads, Gary Wetton, Ian Jones and Sam Whitelock. Righto, team, what do you reckon about this four?
When people of my generation, they hear the name, that revered figure, he is somebody that I always wished that I got to see play.
Most of the stories, the colourful stories about Colin Meads involve violence. And the fact is, back in those days, the players had their own code, and the code often included literally punching somebody in the face. But there was so much more to the guy than that. As a player, I just don't think Colin Meads had any weaknesses. Hell, he even kicked a conversion once for King Country. So, for me, Colin Meads deserves every single bit of praise and almost semi-worship that he's had from the rugby public.
Did he intimidate the opposition, do you think?
Oh, hell yeah. I think so. What do you reckon, Ken?
Well, you know, all of the things that we say about him and all of the things that we admire about him are his courage, his physical presence and his leadership. You're drawn to him. You're drawn to his charisma, his humility, his modesty, which, of course, goes against the grain of a few corpses he's left lying on rugby fields around the world.
The day after he received his knighthood in Wellington, I just happened to be leaving Wellington, and he was in the Chiro Club, and I saw him sitting there. But anyway, I said, so how did you enjoy yesterday? He said, well, not really my thing. But and it sort of summed it up.
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely summed it up.
My word.
But I don't think there's any further discussion.
No.
We're not looking for backups. We've decided, and this is hardly surprising, that our greatest ever loosehead lock is Colin Meads. Sir Colin Meads.
All right, from the front row to the locks, the challenge is laid for you to cast your vote on who you think would make the greatest 15 in the locking department. Pick from the current crop or players of old. The choice is absolutely yours. Cast your vote on the Sky Sport Facebook page, and we'll, of course, announce the winners next week. Now, speaking of locks, there is not a lock to be found on the panel. So, you know what? I found a real one. E.T., come on in. Back by popular demand, one night only. E.T., what's your choice for lock? Who do you like the look of?
Oh man, it's really tough out there. You know, I've heard stories about Colin Meads and how tough he is, but I think I've changed my mind now. I'm probably going with Brodie Retallick because he's this generation. So I think we're going with that. And I was going with Brad Thornton because he's a Queenslander, but I might change it now because Brad Mika's not in there. So I'm gonna go. I'm going to change it now, and I'm probably going to go with Robin Brooke.
You know Roger's coming back, right? So,
Yeah.
you know, the league connection stays.
Oh, of course, man, because Roger's going to play for Pep, and he's going to debut.
You hear that, Roger?
Roger,
You've heard it
come,
here first.
play where your dad played.
All right, after the break, I chat to Keven Miyalamu, but how good was the FPC action on the weekend? Back soon.
Belted by Murray, absolutely belted.
Nuku looking for two, and she gets it as well. Backline, little move, lovely pass, and they won't stop her. To the corner. Oh, that's a beautiful try.
It's a try for Canterbury. And that'll be game over. Canterbury stealing the win from Wellington.
I said, don't you go anywhere now. Ain't nobody say what I own. Sky limit gonna get everything now. I'm taking it.
Oh, he's hard to stop here, isn't it? Impossible.
Here's Miyalama. Miyalama's gonna score. Keven Miyalama. It's loose. Chance. Miyalama's trying to clear up. And a little hooker.
Welcome back to Breakdown, live from the Papatoetoe Rugby Club. And fitting, we have Otahu boy, but club affiliated Keven Mealamu with us. Good to see you. And I guess we should say thanks for having us at your place.
Oh, thanks, Bernie. We're at the heart of South Auckland here, and I'm very privileged. When my brother moved to Papatoetoe here, and you know, blood is thicker than anything. So when he said we're going here, this is where we all went. And very lucky to be a part of a club that's run really well. It's all about some great people here, a really strong junior club, which members boast over 900. So it's a really strong club that's run really well here, really good people, and doing some really things in some really challenging times.
Not bad clubbies here that we've met tonight, that's for sure. Now, Keven, you heard that the public voted you as the greatest All Black hooker. You're a humble man, but it's nice to be acknowledged, isn't it? It's nice to be recognised.
I feel very humble, especially you know, being named with that goat there with Sean. And so, you know, I always think about when we are lucky enough to have some sort of accolade like this. A lot goes to a lot of people that bring you into this position. You know, my parents, my brothers and sisters, all my club, and all the people I played with along the way. So
who did you look up to? The likes of the Fitzies?
I did look up to Fitzy growing up.
Probably feared him too a little bit, I'd imagine.
Well, I played on the side of the scrum, so like most young rugby players, and coming from a Pacific Island background as well, Sir Michael Jones was that man that we were all imitating in the background, you know, in the backyard. So trying to kick goals like Foxy, but never couldn't kick. That's why I played in the forwards with my brother. But definitely we wanted to be like Sir Michael Jones.
So what are you up to at the moment? I know you're a busy man, but what's on your agenda? What are you up to?
We're lucky enough to be being in business with my wife, and we run a gym down in Takanini, which is, it's in our community, it's where we live, and it's a place where we can really get people up and moving. So it's an awesome space to be a part of. I'm on the local board in Papakura as well, so really looking to see where we can help in our community. So it's an amazing space to be a part of, and when you're able to help other people, it's a privilege to be able to do that.
Well, you are a community man, no doubt. But I mean, Moana Pacifica, how exciting is that for you as a prospect to be part of our rugby fabric moving forward? And would you have any interest in being involved?
When I think about it, what an amazing avenue that we have for more players that we don't get to see them come through some of the other channels. So it definitely is an opportunity to be able to see some more of our Pacific Island brothers come through. And, you know, just like everything, we're all behind trying to wish them all the best and give them that support as well.
Fantastic. Well, look, thank you so much for joining us here at your place. It's been a fantastic evening so far. Don't worry about what Ted said. The public voted you #1, so in our eyes, you're out.
One of the nicest men offered, but I tell you what, one of the most competitive men offered on it was Keven Miyalama. And any retort back over there?
No, he knows. He knows. He knows in his heart of hearts. He's a good man. He will forgive me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, it's not often on this show we get a coach who's been there and done that with the British and Irish Lions. It's all going on in South Africa right now. Having to do it in front of no fans, incredibly, you'd have to say, competitive competition going on right now. It's 1-1. They're going to a third test. What's it going to take to get across the line? You've been there. You know how challenging it is to take this team on tour. Who do you see coming out on top of this?
I think the Lions have lost some momentum. You know, the South Africans played better, obviously, and won convincingly. They've got a better scrum, the South Africans, and they've got a more astute kicking game, I think, and more guys who can kick astutely in the back line. So I think the Lions have got ahead of them. They get up from here, it'll be amazing.
Jeff mentioned before, you've been there, but this is a difficult team to coach because you've got 4 different nations. You know, and there's always talk about selection issues and things like that. How do you keep a culture like that and make sure guys are happy to win this? Because they're a different kettle of fish, those guys over in the Northern Hemisphere, mate, aren't they?
Yeah, well, I didn't get it right, Millsy. So, you know, if you had your chance again, I think you'd use the players a lot more in leading the team and a group of them, you know. So I led from the front, which was the wrong thing to do when I had them. And I look back on that, and that's a learning experience. And I'm sure Warren's done this, the 3rd time now? Yeah. And I'm sure he's doing that. I just think they need to play a lot more football, the Lions, if they're going to get a result, because the South Africans have probably got the wood on them up front, particularly at scrum, and their kicking game's better.
Ted, just on that, 2 really similar types of play between the 2 teams. Do you think a week is long enough to change game plan and come out and look at it slightly differently?
Well, if the Lions don't change the game plan and use the ball a lot more, I don't think they're going to get the result they need. So I don't think they've got a choice. If they want to win, they've got to play. That's fair. And so like at the moment, it's a hard watch, isn't it? You people have been watching it. It's a hard watch, and both sides are playing similar football, kicking a lot, big defences. Somebody's got to find some attacking flair to win this game. The Springboks will win if they continue the same way. The game continues the same way.
I'll be fascinated to see how it plays out. I don't know if Saturday, though, here at Auckland's going to be a hard watch, Mills, in the first Bledisloe Cup of the season.
No, I'm looking forward to that. You know, obviously, we've mentioned, and you all know how important the Bledisloe Cup is to New Zealand and how long we've had it. You know, I was very fortunate to be involved in getting it back, and sort of we've had it since then, which has been outstanding. So, looking forward to that.
Who you got?
What, the Bledisloe?
Yeah.
Oh, come on,
well, every so often you throw a random thing out there, but
you've got to be mutual.
But a comfortable one. Hannah, how do you see it playing out?
Yeah, look, I think it will be probably pretty tight for the first 40. It's similar how it's been playing out. I think the All Blacks will run away with it in the second half when they bring their bench on. You
asked me not to ask you. Do you want me to change my mind?
I just think, I think Hannah's just on the button. You know, I think it'll be fairly tight for a while. I think the All Blacks will have too much strike player. And I noticed, I had a look at the weather though.
Oh, did you?
And the weather doesn't look too sharp, so there we go.
Once a coach, always a coach. Plenty to look forward to this weekend. Don't forget as well, though, if you're at Sky Stadium in Wellington for this year's NPC, the opportunity to listen to the commentary, download the Sky app, and you will get the opportunity, the Sky Stadium app, to listen to the commentary. Great to be here at Papatoetoe Rugby Club. We'll see you in 7 days' time. Thanks for having us.